So yesterday we discussed complex numbers. The last time we met, we discussed complex numbers. What is a complex number? A complex number has real numbers and imaginary numbers, right? There's two parts to a complex number, a real part and an imaginary part, okay? Because they're complex, they are really hard, aren't they? Yes. No. Oh my gosh. Soon. Okay? So, the whole title of the worksheet is Solving Quadratic Equations by Formula. How many times did we do that yesterday? Never. Right? We didn't do it at all. Because what did I tell you? We had to learn all the basics to get there, right? There's still one more kind of basic thing. It could be part of today's lesson, okay? But there's one more thing I want to talk about before we really get going actually solving. And that's the discriminant, okay? I need to be very clear about the definition of this word. I'm not making anybody sit at the back of the room. That's a different word, okay? That word is discriminate, all right? This word is discriminant. And there's a value for discriminant, or a formula, for discriminant. And it's this. B squared minus 4AC. That's the discriminant. Okay? The discriminant can tell you what kinds of answers you're going to get. It won't tell you the answer, but it'll tell you what kinds of answers that you get when you actually finally get to solve it with the formula. Okay? On your worksheet, there's a beautiful, beautiful, really wordy table about discriminant. And so a lot of times when people see it, they freak out immediately because there are so many words on this table. Okay? First of all, if I take this side away, that's already much better, isn't it? Because all these are over here are samples. Okay? We're going to do samples in a minute, so we're not going to talk about these right now. But if you do the discriminant and you get an answer that is 0, you're going to have one rational double root. What do I mean by rational? A number that can be written as a fraction. Okay? So it could be 1/3, it could be 2/5, it could be 6. Right? Isn't that 6 over 1? It could be -3. A rational number. Okay? If your discriminant is greater than 0 and it's a perfect square, what kind of numbers are perfect squares? Yeah, all these underneath it, right? Something you know the square root of. So if your discriminant is greater than 0 and it's a perfect square, you will have 2 rational roots. Do I need to talk about the definition of rational again? We just did, so are you good? Okay. If you do your discriminant and you get an answer that is greater than 0, but not a square number, you're going to get 2 irrational roots. So if a rational root is something that can be written as a fraction, what's an irrational? It can't be written as a fraction. It's going to be like the square root of 3, or the square root of 7, or something like that. Something we don't know the square root of. Okay? And the last possibility for a discriminant is that it's less than 0. What happens when a discriminant is less than 0? 2 complex roots. How do we get complex numbers again? We take the square root of a negative number. That's where complex roots come from, or complex numbers, right? So does that make sense that if this is negative, something's going to happen with complex numbers? Yes? Okay, we're going to refer back to this table as we go today. All right? Any questions about that? Okay, I'm going to write the examples that we're going to do on my notebook paper because, you know, I like lines and stuff. All right? But I'm just starting with number 1 right here. Okay? Sometimes I don't mind writing on the paper, but sometimes I might as well just write on notebook paper if I have some. One last thing before we go on. And it's the most important thing. We're about to solve this equation with the quadratic formula. Do you know it? There are a lot of formulas that we have to use in this class, right? How many of them do I make you memorize? Hardly any of them, right? Usually I say this formula is important, and when it comes to the test, I'll let you use your notes. Okay? This is one of the few formulas that you are going to memorize. Okay? Don't stress out about it. It's always easier to memorize things when they're a song. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now it's your turn. Sing with me. It's up on the board. It's on the top of your paper if you need it. Ready? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, some people are too cool for this song. That's okay. We have all period. We can sing it all period if we need to. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. One more time, just to get it stuck in your head for the rest of the day. You ready? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. It doesn't do any good to know such an amazingly cool song if you don't know what it's for. What is it for? How does it start? X equals. What are we doing with this? We are getting x by itself. We are solving for x. Okay? This is called the quadratic formula for a reason, because we can solve quadratics with this formula. Does everybody understand that? Okay? On your paper, I'll keep referring back to it. I just don't want to write on it right now. There's not enough room down there for me. Okay? First of all, we want to write the equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c, equals 0. Okay? Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Is that in the right form? Why not? Because it doesn't equal 0. Okay? And if the 2 is in the right place, it would have a c, right? It just doesn't equal 0. So what do I need to do to make this equation equal 0? Add 2. Add 2 where? Both sides. Add 2, add 2. 3x squared plus 7x plus 2 equals 0. Okay? Okay so far? All right. So let me check our steps. Write the equation in the form ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. Did we do that? Okay, A is done. B, find the discriminant and use it to describe the nature of the roots. Well, before I can find the discriminant, what do I need to know? Don't I need to know A, B, and C? Okay, in this particular problem, what is A? 3. What is B? 7. And what is C? 2. Excellent. So if we're finding the discriminant, I'm going to do b squared minus 4ac. That seems familiar. We'll talk about that in a second. Okay, b squared is 7 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2. Anybody know what 7 squared is? 49. What is 4 times 3 times 2? 24. Excellent. What is 49 minus 24? 25. So I found my discriminant. Describe my discriminant. It is a number greater than 0, right? To start off with, it's a number greater than 0, and it's a perfect square, like he said. it will have two rational roots. And when it says find the discriminant and describe the nature, then you write two rational roots. Say again? Yeah, but we're gonna go with rational right now, just the word. We okay so far? So here was A, right? Getting it in the right form. That was A. That was part A. Find the discriminant is part B. Part C says complete the quadratic formula to find the solutions. Let's see. X equals negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. Now something's weird to me here. I have to do 7 squared minus 4 times 3 times 2. That seems real familiar. We already did that. What do you mean we already did that? Oh. So wait, the discriminant is part of the quadratic formula? Dun dun dun. Where is it? Under the radical. That's perfect. It's under the radical. Now do you see why it makes a difference if that term is positive or 0 or negative? Because I'm taking the square root of a negative number, I'm going to get a complex number. And look what happens. If that discriminant's negative, oh my gosh, complex roots. Okay? Does that help a little bit? Discriminant is not some random formula that we have to remember. It is part of the quadratic formula. And since we know our awesome song, we also know the discriminant. Okay? So here's the fun part. I already did this math. So my next step can go straight here. X equals negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 25 over 6. Does anybody happen to know the square root of 25? Oh my gosh, excellent. That was so fast. X equals negative 7 plus or minus 5 over 6. So that must mean that I'm finished, right? Because everything's as simplified as it can be. Oh, it's not? What do I need to do? I got one more step, don't I? I have negative 7 plus 5. What is negative 7 plus 5? Negative 2 divided by 6. What is negative 2 divided by 6? Negative 1/3. Excellent. Now I have another one, don't I? Negative 7 minus 5. Negative 12 divided by 6. Negative 2. Okay, wait, so thinking back to my fundamental theorem of algebra, it says if I have a degree of 2, which I do because it's a quadratic, how many solutions should I get? 2. How many did I get? I am amazing. Are they right? How could you check them? How could you prove it? You could plug them back into the original equation, substitution, right? Substitute them back in. Or we could plug this equation in the calculator and see where they crossed. These are nice rational roots, which I knew I was going to get. So it's probably fairly easy to see if they're crossing the right places, right? I mean, it's kind of probably a guess about the 1/3, right? But for the negative 2, for sure, we could see if that's crossing at negative 2. Okay? Is it important to check your answers? Oh, yeah. What? Yep. Questions? So, I guess this crazy kid earlier was talking about, okay, so now I got 2 solutions. Now I have to pick the right one. That's the face I was giving him too. I was like, I don't know what you mean. He's like, well, I mean, there can't ever be two solutions that are right. So I just have to pick which one's right. So how do I pick which one's right? What did I say? I have two answers. I'm supposed to have two answers. Fundamental theorem of algebra says quadratics have two answers, right? Even if it's a double root, I still get that double root, don't I? Okay? I've got two answers. Two answers is fine. And then I'm done. Okay? Questions? We good so far? So please look at problem number 2. X squared minus 2x equals 2x minus 2. So according to my rules and according to logic, what should I do first? Get it equal to 0. Okay? So how about if which way do I want to move? Does it matter? Most of the time, it does not matter. But I want to keep my x squared term positive if at all possible. Okay? So let's move the 2x. Is that what I heard you say? And add the 2. So I'm going to end up with x squared minus 4x plus 2 equals 0. Yes? Okay. So what now? We got to find the discriminant. Okay? I want to know what kind of solutions I should expect. So to find the discriminant, I got to know A, B, and C. A is 1, B is -4, C is 2. Excellent. B squared minus 4AC. Ooh, we got to have a talk. Serious talk. Who's got their calculator on their desk? Oh, everyone? Excellent. Press these numbers in for me, or press these buttons for me. -4 squared, enter. Is the calculator a liar, or do you not know how to work the calculator? Or is there another option? The calculator did what you told it to do. The calculator does order of operations. In order of operations, powers come before multiplying a negative, don't they? You told the calculator, because I told you to. I'm not blaming you, right? You told the calculator to square the 4 and then multiply it by a negative. Is that what you meant? Okay? So we have two options. You really have two options. Okay? You can put the -4 in parentheses before you square it. Because guess what it says then? It says 16. Okay? Do you know what your other option is, though? The other option is to use your brain and know that a negative number squared is going to be positive. Okay? Now, if it's a number squared like -56, I don't know what 56 squared is. So I want to go ahead and put that in my calculator, but I'd be careful. I'd either put in -56 in parentheses and then square it, or I'd square the 56 knowing my answer was going to be positive. Fair enough? Okay? So it's enough here to be able to just say that's 16, isn't it? 4 times A times C. Well, what is 4 times 1 times 2? So 16 minus 8 is 8. If my answer is a positive number, I have to decide if it's a square or not. Is it a square or not? It's not. So I'm going to have 2 irrational roots. So I need to mentally prepare myself for 2 irrational roots. Probably not, but you never know. Okay? So you ready to now solve the equation? X equals, negative b. Because it was already negative, and when I put it into the formula, it changes the sign. Plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So some people can go straight here. Some of you still need to write b squared 16 minus 4 times 1 times 2. But we've already done it. Okay? We've already done it, haven't we? So we know what that means in there. So let's simplify. X equals 4 plus or minus square root of 8. What are we going to do with that? Do you remember how to simplify radicals? Did we talk about this yesterday at all? Okay, watch. You know, because of rules of radicals, because we did talk about some of the rules of radicals yesterday, you know that I can separate numbers inside of here, right? I can say that this is really 4 times 2. Why did I choose 4? Because I can separate it one more time, and I know the square root of 4, don't I? 2 root 2. Let me do one more before we go on. We're taking a commercial break over here for a second. Okay? What about the square root of 90? I would probably choose 9 and 10. Why would I choose 9 and 10? Because I know the square root of 9. Okay? So I would probably make it 9 and 10, which would be the square root of 9 times the square root of 10, which is 3 root 10. Please do not be confused. This is not asking you to divide it in half. You know that, right? Okay? It's asking for the square root. What times what equals this number? I don't know what times what equals 10, so I'm going to leave it as the square root of 10. I'm not going to run to my calculator and press it in just to get a decimal. I'm going to leave it. Okay? One more. What about this one? 24. Okay, why wouldn't I choose 8 and 3? Why would I choose 6 and 4? Do I know the square root of 8 or the square root of 3? So I would choose 4 and 6 because I know the square root of 4. Okay? So I would make it 4 and 6. Can I skip a step here for you? Not yet? Okay. 2 root 6. Okay? So back to this right here. 8, square root of 8 we did already is 2 root 2. Remember that? Over 2. So here's the big deal. Here's the big deal. Can I get into that square root to simplify? What's the only thing I can do to that number underneath the radical? Take the square root of it. I already did everything I could possibly do to the square root. I cannot touch it anymore. Okay? Is everything in the numerator divisible by 2? Then I can divide everything in the numerator that I'm allowed to, not what's in the square root. X is going to equal 2 plus or minus 1 root 2, because that's what I heard, but this is also perfectly acceptable. Okay? Either one of those are fine. You can leave the 1 there if you want. You can not write it if you want. Questions? That's my answer. Okay? If we were in some sort of word problem world, and I said, I need to know what that equals, then you would take your calculator, and you would press in, after you turned it on, 2 plus the square root of 2, and hit enter. And then you do 2 minus the square root of 2, and hit enter, and those would be your two solutions. Because if we were trying to find a distance, for instance, 2 plus the square root of 2 is not a distance to me. I don't have any idea what that means. but I know what 3.41 means, right? If we're talking about feet or miles, I know what 3.41 feet means. I don't know what 2 plus or minus the square root of 2 feet means. Okay? But we're not in some weird word problem world right now. That's really hard to say. Try it later. Okay? This is perfectly fine way to leave the answer. Yes? Any questions? We ready to go on? Last one? 3. Oh, I have to do 3 for you, and then I get to show you some really easy ones. Ready? You remember how yesterday you didn't believe me when I said they were really easy, and they really were? That's in your face. Okay? Ready? Number 3. X squared plus, equals 14x minus 58. Pretend that's an equal. What do we want to do first? I want to get it equal to 0. Okay? What am I moving? The 14x and the 58. Can I show you what this crazy kid did yesterday? He was like this. X squared minus 14x is negative 13x. So negative 13x plus 58 is 45x. Yeah, that's the face I made at him too. What was he doing? He's trying to combine everything, right? Just the same way we can't combine real and imaginary, we can't combine x's and terms not even the same type of x's. This is an x squared. I cannot combine it with an x, can I? Okay? So I have x squared minus 14x plus 58 equals 0. What do we want to do next? Find our discriminant. So A is 1, good. B is negative 14, and C is 58. C. B squared minus 4AC. So B squared is going to be negative 14 squared minus 4 times 1 times 58. Yeah? Negative 14 squared is, I believe, 196. Yes? 4 times 1 times 58. Anybody have that for me? 232. Negative 36. Negative 36. My discriminant is less than 0. 2 complex roots. 2 complex roots. What? We don't care about that. We don't care it's a square root. The fact is that it's negative. It makes it a little easier here in a minute, but not a lot. Okay? Not that it was hard, but you know what I'm saying. Maybe not. It's okay. Now, quadratic formula, yes? We got to solve it. Okay? X equals negative b plus or minus the square root. I'm going to do it the long way just in case people still need to do it. Of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. No, that's fine. You can write the equation every time if you want. I just sing it. Because what does the quadratic formula do again? What does the song do for you? Helps you solve a quadratic equation, right? Helps you solve a quadratic. That's what it does. That's its purpose. I mean, besides just being a really cool song. Okay? So, now I can go straight to the next step, right? From here to here. Because we already did all the work up here. Right? This is the step we skipped earlier. I just wanted to write it just in case any of you were still struggling with what was going on. Okay? All over 2. Anybody know the square root of negative 36? 6i, right? So I have, and I don't have to remember the plus or minus this time. Why? Oh, look, it's built into the formula. Right? Now what? Am I finished? Why not? I have 2. I have 14 plus 6i divided by 2, and I have 14 minus 6i divided by 2. Can you tell those are 2 different solutions? Okay. I can divide everything by 2, right? Everything in the numerator is divisible by the denominator. Or everything in the numerator is divisible by the same number as everything in the denominator is. But in this case, I can just go here, right? That's my answer. How many answers do I have? Okay, for the record, I'm not going to make you write this on your homework, but for the record, what is the first answer? 7 plus 3i. What is the second answer? 7 minus 3i. I just needed to make sure everybody could see both answers. Fair enough? Okay, but this is perfectly acceptable for an answer. Okay? Questions? Please look really quickly at 4 and 5a. Given a quadratic equation with rational coefficients and a root of 3 plus 5i, what is another root to the equation? Oh yeah, 3 minus 5i. Done. Look at 5. If one root is negative 2 plus 8i, what is another root? Oh my gosh, you guys are so good at that. What are those called again? Complex conjugates. Excellent. Okay. 1 through 6, 7a, 8a. 1 through 6, 7a, and 8a. Any questions about that? If there's not enough room on this paper for you to do your work, you may absolutely use notebook paper. Make sure you keep your work with the worksheet. Okay? Any questions? Any questions? Okay, you have the rest of the period to work. Ask questions as you need. Peace.